Hey everybody, welcome to Enhance Don't Distract. My name is Justin Edmonds. Today I have a special guest. We posted the video about Mac versus PC for your ProPresenter 7 setup. And Anthony's a friend of the show. He's good friends with me and Jordan both. And he was like, hey, I really feel like, you guys did the Windows machines dirty. So he wanted to come on, wanted to kind of give a little bit more advice on that side and have that conversation. Seems like me and Jordan pretty much were exactly the same feeling on every level of it. And he was like, hey, you really needed to have someone on there that, has some advice and some opinions towards the Windows side of things. So Anthony, welcome. Thank you so much. Why don't you...
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you just so that people kind of know what kind of background and experience you have and that you're not just some random person that's like, no, I love Windows.
Yeah. I'll start off by saying I don't love Windows, so we'll get into that later. But
perfect.
This is my co-host, Kylo Ren. He is with me every time I'm at my desk. I have been selling custom Windows systems. It's Windows. It has to be, but for over 15 years. I have a company, Goat Tech. We do very similar stuff to you, as you know, but we do IT support, computer sales, networking. I work with a lot of nonprofits and churches, so this is kind of up my wheelhouse. I like to help churches specifically not waste money. I don't want to see ministry funds go to waste, and I want people to feel good about what they're spending. So that's kind of my heart behind why I like working with churches, and kind of the philosophy that I use for all technology. Yeah.
No, that's good. So like I said, a friend of the show too. So it's like we haven't known each other for super long, but I feel like the little bit of time that we have known each other, which has been probably close to 2 years now.
Yeah.
Something like that. I think we've gotten to know each other a lot more over the last 6 months, which has been cool. You listened to the podcast and you were the one that were like, hey, I think, I want to chime in. So I guess, why don't we just start there? What do you think we missed that you wanted to rebuttal with?
Yeah, I've got two things I want to start with. I'll let you choose.
Okay.
One was VRAM.
Okay.
And two was the Magic Mouse.
All right, let's start with Magic Mouse.
Okay. The Magic Mouse is one of the worst human interface devices ever created.
Okay, why do you feel like that? Because I know most people feel that way, and I am not in love with it, but I also don't hate it the way everyone else hates it.
So, do you know ratings.com or Rtings, however you say it? Yeah. I think it's supposed to be ratings. On there, they do objective scientific testing for devices.
Do you have it pulled up?
Yeah, I do.
Does it allow you to present?
Sure.
Yeah, why don't you present it?
So they do TVs. They do monitors, mice, keyboards, share screen.
It'll pop up here, and I should be able to add it to the canvas here so we can see it.
Okay. Chrome tab.
Boom. Add to stage.
And this right here is my big issue with it. It has terrible click latency. Which even compared to other Bluetooth devices, which just makes it very difficult to click the things that you're expecting to click, especially coming from Windows, because the sensor that's in this mouse has built-in acceleration. It has an acceleration curve that's built into the sensor, and it's actually really hard to build muscle memory.
So let's dive into this a little bit deeper. Talk to us, because most of the people that listen to this podcast probably don't know what that means.
Yeah. So a mouse. This is a Logitech G Pro Superlight. It has a sensor on the bottom. There's lots of different sensors out there, and then it has these PTFE feet, polytetrafluoroethylene. This is a super slick material that makes mice feel really, really nice when they move. It doesn't hitch. It doesn't slow down. Mm-hmm. And then this also has a charging port on the front, so you can plug it in, use it wired while it's charging, which, as you know, on a Magic Mouse is not possible.
Yeah, that's everyone's complaint.
Yep. And then this has a 90 hertz polling rate, and then if you combine that So the polling rate is every time the computer asks the mouse for an update on its position. So it does it 90 times per second. This does it 1,000 times per second. And even this is getting a little slow nowadays because now they go up to 4,000 times.
Yeah.
So if you combine the 90 hertz with a very laggy Bluetooth connection, you are going to have a really slow movement, and you can feel it, especially on a 60 hertz display where you move it and it doesn't move fast enough, like it doesn't start moving. So that, with the fact that it only has one physical button, is not an intuitive interface. Like if you've never touched a computer before in your life and you look at this, you're like, oh, there's a left click, there's a click on the right, and there's a wheel. So the wheel must do something. If you just pick that up, you'll never be able to figure that out unless you have some direction.
Yeah, but wasn't the idea behind the Magic Mouse that they were trying to take the trackpad thought process and put it into an ergonomical hand thing? Which, yeah, I see this, right? That's a lot of people's complaint is like the curvature for your hand is fatiguing. I get that. So, like, for instance, like Sean, who also is one of the hosts here for the podcast, like he refuses to use the Magic Mouse when he's editing video because that's his main job is, right? And that 100% makes sense, right? The pinpointness of the Magic Mouse is horrible, like you've said. Like I get all of that. But when we're talking about on the level of I'm clicking some giant slides, and honestly, I don't even really use my mouse very often when I'm using PurpoCenter. Like I use my mouse like to get into the first slide, and then I'm using keyboard, right? I'm just arrowing over type thought process. So that's where it's like, for me, it doesn't bother me in that point. If like when I sell Macs to clients, I don't sell them Magic Mouse because of the same reasons, right?
Okay, yeah.
You know, but it's like I have one because I like the feeling of, you know, the gestures that it comes with and stuff like that. And it's black, so it looks all nice and pretty. And, you know, there's a level of like Apple fanboyness that I do have, you know, and I'm willing to admit that. But I don't know, like if I was gaming or doing like illustrations and stuff like that, I think that those specs that you just talked about, I think make more sense there versus like, I don't know. That's just my opinion, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does say in this article specifically, do not use this for any gaming.
Yeah. I will say, like, the biggest thing that frustrates me about the Magic Mouse is is Google Calendar.
Oh, why is that?
Because as soon as you try and like move the mouse on Google Calendar, you literally will be thrown into 4 years in the future.
Oh, because it super scrolls.
Because it super scrolls through it, and it like, I thought it was just me, but it is on every single Mac that I've ever seen that has a Magic Mouse. It will literally just throw you into oblivion, and
nice.
like I literally think I landed in like 2027 one time.
Maybe we should all go to 2027.
Maybe it's actually a prophetic word from the Magic Mouse. That
yeah, exactly.
2027
is magic. I do have a mouse that a lot of people hate.
So I will say that I used to hate those because it is one of those things that once you get used to it, you really do love it.
Yep.
And honestly, like I did that for a lot of like drawing, like engineer drawings, like one lines and stuff like that. And I struggled for a long time with it because I never would just go in and just do it. So it was like I would start with it because I'm like, I gotta get used to this, and then I would like, hate this thing, and then stop using it and go back to a normal mouse.
Yep.
But as I tried more and more and more, I did fall in love with those style of mouse for specific things.
Yeah, PDFs. It's great.
Yeah. I don't think that I could do everyday computing with that mouse. I think it would probably drive me crazy.
If you're doing a lot of data entry where you have to like click on a bunch of things all day, that would get really fatiguing on your thumb for sure.
Yeah. So I think what, for your argument, I agree. I think that there's multiple mice that are better than this mouse. Probably everything outside of something you could go from 5 below and get, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that there's different mice for obviously different things. But I would say I don't think the Magic Mouse is a horrible, horrible decision for a church to go to the Apple store and buy a Mac and buy that and use it for ProPresenter. I don't think that's like you're stupid for doing that. Do you think that someone's stupid for buying a Magic Mouse at this? I mean, stupid is probably a harsh word, but like,
yeah, no, I would not say anyone's stupid. I would say that they're probably, if somebody is just walking into an Apple store, purchasing a computer and then buying the mouse that's there, they're just buying the mouse that's there. They're not thinking about it at all.
Yeah.
And most people are never ever going to think about a mouse or a keyboard. That's like the last thing that they think about, but that's the details that keep me awake at night. I fall asleep thinking about mice sensors and mouse sensitivity and stuff.
Your cat's making your camera go all crazy. It's trying to like focus on the cat.
Try to get him out of here.
That's not good. Yeah, the other argument that people make is like, and you pointed out right, is you can charge it. I get the idea is if it is dead and it's in the middle of service, right? Like you are screwed, right? You just don't have a mouse. My argument for that is in most scenarios like that computer is sitting in a sanctuary that gets used maybe twice a week, and this mouse, I will charge my mouse probably once every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That's how long that battery lasts. And I feel like if you are having a problem where that mouse is dying on you in the middle of service, you need to do a better job of charging it when you're not using it, because you have a lot of time to charge it that you're not using that mouse.
Yeah, with that said, I actually like the Magic Mouse 1 better because you could just swap out AA batteries.
Yeah, I think what I hated about that is that like the little door like was never attached to the mouse. And it always felt so.
It would drag.
It would drag.
Yeah.
And like I felt like this mouse, like it's got the the two tracks. I don't feel like these ever gunk up. And on the Gen 1, I felt like I had to clean these constantly.
Interesting.
Which is really weird because I think they ended up using a different material. This is like a lot smoother of a plastic than the other one was, like almost like a rubbery like style plastic.
Yeah, I think that's actually plastic and not PTFE like this.
Yeah.
This has a dock that you can swap this out with a Qi charger and then get a Qi mat. And then it also just always is 100% charged. That's
pretty baller. I do really like that. I'm not arguing that there's better mice out there. Like, don't take that. Anyone that's listening, I'm not saying that the Magic Mouse is the best mouse in the world and you should buy it. I just don't hate it the way that everyone else hates it. And I don't think it's as bad in the scenario of ProPresenter 7, right? If I'm editing video and that's my profession, or going through PDFs, or doing anything that needs to be like really fine-tuned, or gaming, like we said, this is probably the worst mouse in the world for it. So that's kind of my thing. So,
all right.
Anything else, or do you want to move on to VRAM?
No, I'm glad we could agree.
Okay.
So VRAM, you mentioned on your example in your episode was a $500 Mac Mini with a Sonnet with a DeckLink card in it.
Yep.
Versus a PC, which I assumed was like off the shelf, like you're going to go buy it from HP, Dell, etc.
Yeah, and go walk into Best Buy or Costco and pick something off the shelf.
And that's not something that I would recommend either. I don't recommend off-the-shelf computers.
Dude, 100%. So can I clarify that thought process a little bit?
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that, and I probably should have done a better job clarifying this in the original podcast, is most churches don't talk to someone like you. So I posted that podcast in a ProPresenter group to get some feedback, because, hey, what do you guys think about this? So I really want to get some feedback after you'd messaged me. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of people that were on the same train that I was on. And they were like, listen, we had a guy that he bought this Cadillac PC, and it was the worst thing ever. Well, the guy that runs that group is he has a channel where he teaches ProPresenter on every level. And he was like, yeah, the gaming setup for, these computers, which is a majority of what Best Buy and Costco and them sell, right? Is not designed in the same way, right? People see NVIDIA 6 gig graphics card and they go, that's great. Well, that's not the same. There's two versions that NVIDIA makes, right? They make a gaming graphics card, and then they make the like a normal graphics card for like a graphic designer or video editor that just needs a lot of VRAM to cache things. So yes,
I'll push back on that a little bit.
Okay.
Because NVIDIA creates, yes, they do have professional cards, but ProPresenter actually recommends the gaming cards if you go into their requirements.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It says any equivalent with dedicated GPU of 4 gigs or more.
We'll throw it on the screen.
Okay.
I know you're not used to this. But most people's complaints was that they buy these like gaming computers and then they're just like, they just don't work the way.
So my problem with those is the exact same problem I have with Apple stuff, is that they generally, if it's Dell, HP, a big brand, Lenovo even, you're going to get proprietary parts that you can't just go pick up off the shelf. They do have custom GPUs. So Dell will order a custom graphics card that is, you can't just buy off the shelf, and it's not the same. It's usually way stripped down versus what you could just purchase. Their power supplies are awful. The motherboards they use have very bad power delivery. So you start drawing a lot of power off of it. Like the graphics card spins up, it starts using a lot of power. That the power delivery on the motherboard is awful. The CPU is gonna you could blue screen. There's a lot of different issues. So yeah, I agree with that. My advocate though, or what I want to advocate for, I mean, is that there has to be, in even a 100-person church, someone willing to go out, spend a couple hours, do the research, watch YouTube videos, find a local company that is willing to sell them a computer that's perfect for what they need. And yeah, I do understand that takes a little bit more than walking into an Apple store and buying a Mac Mini, but I think it's worth it for one, the more power for the same amount of money. You can have the DeckLink card directly in the computer. Like all the ones I sell have a 16x slot for a graphics card, two 8x slots for like a DeckLink, a 10 gig NIC, something like that, and then a couple 1x's. And then with that, the whole VRAM thing, why I wanted to bring that up is you mentioned in this scenario, the $500 versus the $1,500 PC, that the VRAM was the issue on the PC. But on a Mac, a $500 Mac, you're going to have 8 gigs of unified memory. Right. And 6 of that is going to be used by your Chrome window that you're going to have open, ProPresenter. That's used 6 gigs right there. And that leaves you 1 to 2 for the GPU to use to render video for the DeckLink. And then on a PC, you're getting minimum of 16 for the system, which I generally sell 32 for ProPresenter systems with a minimum of 6 gigs of VRAM. So even in that $1,500 price bracket, you're getting 6 gigs of VRAM plus 16 or 32 system RAM. So I don't think that's a sticking point on why a Mac would be better for that.
I mean, I think it depends on what your definition of better is.
Well, you said that was something that was not better on a PC, was the VRAM. And I'm saying, well, it's... Well,
I mean, you can't, I mean, yes, I mean, it's not necessarily like the... Hang on, let me gather my thoughts here. I think that the operation is what makes things better, not necessarily the specifications. And I think that, yes, you're right. I think a machine that you build, because I've seen machines you've built and they function great. They're awesome, right? The church that you also do work for, like I know you guys are all Windows for your ProPresenter computers, and then you guys don't have any problems. Like I get that, and I think that when I have seen and what the feedback that I was getting even after the podcast is most of the computers that you can go and buy off the shelf that have the larger specifications still don't function nearly as good as the base model Mac Mini.
Okay.
In that scenario.
Yep,
now,
I can accept that.
If you change the parameters of, hey, I'm specifically choosing hardware that is supposed to function at a higher level because of this, and I can do it for roughly the same price point, I think that changes that conversation.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
I don't disagree with you that even in a church of 100 people, that there's got to be someone that's willing to do that. But the issue that I've been finding with my work with nonprofits and churches is that there's a lot of people that that person that is there that can do that isn't trusted, so it doesn't get done, or no one knows what the problem is or who to talk to fix the problem, or you have the guy that builds computers, but he's building, an LED filled gaming computer that isn't designed to run ProPresenter, or, like you said, that power issue ends up being here or there because they do it incorrectly because they don't really know what they're doing. They think they do. And that was one of the women that commented on the video said that, right? She's like, we had someone that built a Cadillac computer for us, right? It was a Windows machine. And I think she said it was like $5,000 or something like that. Super, super crazy over the top, right? And she was like, it had all sorts of issues. And she listed a bunch of the issues, that she was having. And she was like, we went back to Mac and had 0 issues, and we spent like a fraction of the cost. In the Intel world, because and I don't know if me and Jordan talked about this, is like Mac kind of has been up and down, right? It was like I was in love with them for a long time because like they weren't really that, like people were like, oh, well, they're so expensive. I'm like, yeah, but when you start comparing it apples to apples of the guts that are in this computer versus this, they're, usually within a couple $100 of each other. That changed where I couldn't buy, for video editing, I couldn't buy a Mac that would actually handle my 4K video for less than like $3,500, right? And I could go and buy a Dell from Costco off the shelf that would edit 4K video without hesitation for like $800, right? Plus monitor and stuff like that. So like there was a huge like delta there, but now I could edit 4K video off of my M1 base, MacBook Air without hesitation at all. And so like now we're kind of back up there, and the big limitations are that like those M1s and now the M2s, like the base model versions, aren't really designed to be doing multiple displays, right? And that's the issue there.
Which is 2 Macs. Right.
And then or some of them are just one, like if you've got a MacBook or a Mac, the Mac Mini or whatever.
Yep.
Not the Mac Mini, the MacBook Air, right? I can do the built-in display in one display. But then if I'm on a Mac Mini, it's like I'm doing the monitor in front of me, right? That's monitor number 1, and then an extra one. So that's where the Sonic kind of comes in. And it's like, I get that it's limiting, like you were saying. I'm not arguing any of that. It's just, most people don't do what you're saying. And even if that is the reality that they should be doing and that it's available, doesn't mean that they're doing it.
Yeah. Like a system like this, that's Intel has, which that's a whole another conversation, Intel versus AMD. Actually, our main ProPresenter PC that we're using right now is AMD at the church. Okay. It's a 3700X. And we're going to be swapping that back over to a 13700K Intel PC. But anyway, on Intel, you can actually connect to the motherboard multiple monitors to the integrated GPU. So you can use like the one that you're looking at and maybe a second to that. And then that gives you 4 additional on the graphics card, 4, 5, 6, however many the graphics card has. So you could, in reality, do up to 8 screens without a deck link.
Nice.
But I would never advocate for that. Like I'm totally with you on using a deck link, because then that disconnects the displays. So your projector, your stage display, like anything lower thirds that you're using, or what's that called? Alpha keying. Yeah. Like all that stuff that you want sent out of the computer, that disconnects those displays from the operating system. Yeah. So Windows doesn't, and I know you know this, I'm just saying that to the audience. So Windows or Mac doesn't even see the displays. It doesn't think that they're displays, which is great, because then ProPresenter can talk directly to the display, set the frame rate, set the resolution. 100% advocate for that. Yeah. Which is actually another kind of sticking point with that I have, not necessarily, which I've heard before, and not just from you, but the sonnets, to me, that just adds another level of possible failure, because you're connecting your most important piece, which is the deck link, through a Thunderbolt cable, which has a port on the computer, two ends on the cable, a port on the sonnet, another power supply. It just adds like 5 extra possible failure points that I don't like.
Yeah, and I think that is probably the most valid argument that I don't think you can really argue, right? There's not anything I can come back at you with and say, well, but this, right? You're 100% right? Now we have multiple failure points. Someone unplugs a cable, someone kicks a power supply, whatever. Someone, accidentally cuts a cable, power supply cable, because they're trying to cut a zip tie and, or they kick it and it bends it and now you're completely screwed, right? I get that. I think the argument for it was originally, and still is that if you're not going to do the due diligence of buying a machine from someone like you that's done correctly, that is going to actually function correctly and as flawlessly as you can make a computer function, right?
Yeah, which on both sides is never flawless.
Exactly. That's why the caveat of as flawlessly as you can make it, right? Then walking into if you need to walk into a store, which is 90% of the churches that we deal with, the worship pastor gets told, "Hey, we need to get a computer." All right, well, I'll just walk into Best Buy and buy a computer, or I'm going to walk into Costco and buy a computer, right?
And most people aren't going to know that that's not a valid option.
Right. I think in that scenario, that's where it's like, I think Mac is the better option in those things. And then I think the biggest thing for me, if we were to strip all of that away, right? Put all the things we've just talked about, put a pin in those and say, none of those exist, right? What are we working with? I just hate Windows. It's cumbersome. The updates are so frustrating.
That's something I wanted to bring up was updates.
Okay,
because you guys talked pretty significantly about those.
Yeah.
When all the Macs that I have worked with, everybody is afraid of updating because they think it's going to break something. Mm-hmm. But on Windows, I literally have not had an issue in 6 years. Like the worst issue I have on a Windows update is Windows Firewall turning back on. Like if you're using it as a server or something. I haven't seen the issues, especially since the transition from hard drives to solid states. Mm-hmm. Even last night, my wife updated her HP Envy. She's got the new Intel Core Ultra 155. Pretty cool system. But it did a firmware update, so a BIOS update. Yeah. It did a management engine update. It did a full feature update from Windows. So it was 2023 half 2 to 2024 half 1, I think. So it's a full feature update. And it took less than 10 minutes.
Yeah, I don't fear updates on the OS for like breaking ProPresenter on Mac. I think my bigger thing is like, because I'm an updater. Like, there's an update that comes out. Let's update it.
All my computers are on the beta. Give me the updates. I want them.
Yeah, and I'm a firm believer in that. I think where the problem comes for me when it comes to updates is kind of like what we talked about, right? Is like you can now yes, you can now shut off automatic updates, but Windows will force you to update at some point in time.
Eventually, yep.
Right. And that's my thing about Mac OS is they will not force me to update. I can sit on an old version of Mac OS for technically 3 years. Now, if I'm updating ProPresenter, eventually ProPresenter will go, hey, like you can't do that, or I can't function because you need to update your OS, right? So there is always that, but it's like it's still in such a controlled environment. Like I'm not going to come in one Sunday and go, oh crap, service is starting and my computer is updating.
Yeah. But again, that's less than 5 minutes if you do it.
I mean, you have it has to download and all those kind of things. If you have a really slow, crappy connection, you're on Wi-Fi. I mean,
it would never stop a service to download an update. That's not how it works. It downloads in the background, buffers everything, gets it ready, and then it says we're going to update. And you can even set active times where it will never do that during a Sunday morning during this time.
Right. But you have to go in there and tell it to do that, right?
It will try to decide what its active hours are, which I don't recommend using that. Set it yourself for sure.
Yeah, I will say Windows 11 has been a lot nicer to work with.
Yep.
Than Windows 10 was. Windows 11 definitely has a lot more of a Mac feel too, which is kind of fun. So the settings still suck trying to navigate through all of those. But yeah,
I still go to the control panel. Like I grew up on Windows 98, Windows XP. Like I want everything in the control panel. I want to use shortcuts and run commands and all that. But most people aren't going to be doing that.
Well, and I think that says something too, right? Is like you've been on that system for so long, like that's what you're accustomed to, right? Because one of the guys that does a lot of the IT stuff for me, Chuck, he's the same way, right? He's like, I'm a Windows guy. I've always been a Windows guy. He's certified in a bunch of Windows things, and I go, dude, this is so frustrating to figure out these settings. And he's like, no, you just do this, 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 and I'm like,
you're like, how would you know that?
Right. I'm like, it's just not intuitive. Yeah. For me on the Mac, it's like, it's so simplistic, right? I click on system settings and everything's kind of laid out there. The newer versions that we have like right now, those have gotten a little bit more complicated, which are a little bit more frustrating, but they're still pretty easy for me to figure out. But it does come down to one of those, like, when I'm on my Windows machine, because I have a Windows laptop, I have a Lenovo Yoga that I use for on-site deployment and some
great computers.
Simple drawings. When I'm having to be on that a lot for programming or drawings, I will obviously, as time goes on, I get more and more used to navigating through that, and it becomes less frustrating. But I'm like, man, I don't want to have to, because I'll go like a month or two without having to get on that machine at all. Right. And then it's like, then I'm back on the machine. I'm like, oh, crap. How do I do this? Oh, this thing is so stupid. Like, why is this so difficult? Why do I have to?
Well, that's coming from your Mac mind, because that's how I feel going on a Mac. I'm like, 100%. Everything is in the wrong spot.
Exactly.
So that actually brings me up to a topic that I wrote down, is that over 80% of people still use Windows. Yeah. So if you got somebody like, let's be real, most of our churches are using volunteers for ProPresenter clicking. They're going to feel more comfortable on a Windows computer, just if you go by pure numbers, just because that's what they use at work. That's what 80% of work still use it. And it seems like to me, anecdotally, that Apple is gaining traction, but the numbers don't say that. And I'm not sure where the disconnect is between that. But 100%, vast majority of businesses are on Windows computers. People are going to feel more comfortable with that. I would say that if you took two people from the 1940s, dropped them in 2024, and said, turn this device on and turn this device on, a Windows PC and a Mac, and send an email and figure it out, I don't know which one would be easier. I can't say for sure that either one of them would be easier to figure out.
Yeah, and I definitely think that we're close. I think the two machines are a lot closer now to Silverado and F-150, right? It's kind of like those are both pretty much the same machine within reason, right? There's a little caveats here and there, but yeah, I don't disagree. I think that Windows has come a long way. They I think finally caught on that Excel is not the only thing that people want on that machine, right? And I say that kind of like half-heartedly, but that's the truth, right? They were so driven by,
by business,
their Office, offerings, right, which are still top-notch and nothing compares to it, right? Currently, Google's catching up, but they're still really far behind.
Yep.
That they didn't really care about all of the frustrations and idiosyncrasy, about the machines, and then you also throw in the caveat of, well, now it's like Dell's making something, HP's making something, right? Is Windows going to function correctly with that, right? I want to update this. Like, is that going to work? A lot of that stuff is starting to smooth out too, which has been nice, So
drivers are always a huge sticky point before, but since Windows 10, Windows 11, they really download themselves.
Yeah. So yes, I will concede that in 2024, I think a Windows machine is a lot more of an acceptable offering for ProPresenter than before. But I'm just still such a Mac guy, and I think that in my head, unless you're gonna go and build something, correctly, I still think a Mac is a better off the shelf, just plug it in and go solution than a Windows machine. Unless you're, like you said, you're going to go through someone like you that's going to build it correctly, that's going to have the correct parts in it.
Yeah.
And obviously support too, right?
And I should explain my position on Windows too and Microsoft. I am not a Windows apologist. I'm not a Microsoft apologist. They make mistakes. They're a crappy company. Apple's a crappy company. Google's a crappy company. I have a Pixel. Like, they all suck. Nobody likes you.
Is Bill Gates standing over your shoulder?
Yeah. With a needle, with a vaccine. Uh-oh. Different conversation. So if in a magic world we could use Linux, we could install Pop! OS on a machine or Ubuntu or something, and you could plug in a Decklink card and it worked, and you could go to ProPresenter's website, click download, run it, and it would work. I would love that, but it's just not reality. I don't know if it'll ever.
Why do you think that's not a reality? Why do you think? Because there's a lot of people that like to build their own stuff. Why? The better question is, why is ProPresenter not releasing their own appliance?
Oh, that's an interesting question that I never thought of. That's something that I would very, very much disagree with on a very fundamental level.
Having your own appliance?
Yeah.
Here's my only argument for it, right? And I'm not all about appliances, right? But my only argument for it at a logical standpoint, right, is when you are talking to a church client and they go, oh, well, we want to run ProPresenter, and we're also going to run our live stream off of it, and we're also going to run our lighting off of it, and then we're also going to do emails. Oh, and I downloaded Photoshop on there, and then I also have After Effects on there. Oh, and I have Resolve on there as well. And then someone downloaded Pop Games. I don't know what that is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like when you have that thought process, you're like, no. The only thing that should be on this machine should be ProPresenter.
This magic box.
Yeah.
$2,700.
Right. That's your appliance argument, is that's what it would be? Yeah.
Yeah. Like Waves, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Those little Waves appliances.
Yep.
It's literally a $70 PC. That's all the hardware that's inside of it. And it was what, $2,900?
Yeah, something like that. Unless you bought the bigger one, which was like $3,500.
Yeah.
Yeah, which had like Windows Professional, so it's like it's a super it's their custom Windows build, that lets them do their thing.
Yeah,
Kinda
which
like
is
an
really
ATM.
cool. That is one good thing about Windows. You can do these custom versions. You can edit it before it's installed. Again, that's not something a church would ever do. But yeah, like theoretically, I, as somebody who provides these machines to churches, I could come up with my own stripped down, edited Windows version that only has stuff for ProPresenter on it. And now that I'm saying that out loud, I might actually do that.
I was going to say, why are you not doing that?
Yeah, that never crossed my mind.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
I just made you super rich.
Yeah.
I honestly, I think that like everyone wants turnkey everything, right? The whole, the title of our podcast, right? Enhance, don't distract, right? Technology is supposed to enhance what we're doing and not distract us. And honestly, from both platforms, Mac or Windows, right? There's always a distraction when there's something that's not working. And so it's like, that's why I said that appliance thought process. Like, I hate the idea, right? For those exact reasons you were saying. But on a practical sense, it does kind of make sense to have a machine that just runs ProPresenter. You can't do anything else to it.
It is totally their logical next business step. And I hope they don't watch this and get that idea.
Yeah, renewed vision. If you do, I want royalty checks.
Yes, send it to him. I don't want to be involved.
Don't worry. I mean, eventually at some point in time, that money will end up in your pocket some way, shape, or form between the two of us.
Yeah.
But all right, do you have anything else, or do you think we've exhausted this, or what are you thinking?
The only thing we haven't talked about is repairs.
Okay.
Well, there's two things that we haven't talked about. Repairs. There is something to be said to take a device to the Apple store, but that's not convenient. Like, there aren't Apple stores everywhere.
Yep.
And Apple has a history of shutting down independent repair centers, which is one of the reasons that I will not use their stuff. They
don't do that anymore. Did you see the Supreme Court case that just wrapped up like 2 months ago?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So that was good.
Hopefully that fixes it.
Right to repair, you know.
Yep. I'm a big right to repair guy. But do you know Louis Rossmann?
No.
On YouTube. He has an independent repair shop in New York City, and he does board level stuff. So he'll disassemble a MacBook Air and literally board level with a microscope repair these things. And he has a lot of really, really good videos on the things that Apple does purposely so that can't happen anymore.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that the legislation helps with that. I think it's extremely wasteful. If like a Waves processor, or like we were talking a Pro Presenter machine or a Mac Mini, I think it's extremely wasteful to have a device that you cannot take the panel off and be able to replace this water pump or replace the RAM or replace the graphics card yourself.
I'll agree with that. Like the whole gluing in of like the RAMs and the hard drives and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like that became really frustrating because I remember the OG Mac Minis when they came out, you could twist the bottom off and pull the RAM out, right?
Yeah, that was so cool.
Yeah, and I love that, right? Because you could buy the basic one, or you could buy what you thought you needed, and if you needed more, then you could buy more and replace it. And it's like, man, like maybe make it just a little bit proprietary, and just make me have to buy the RAM from you.
Yeah,
you know, type thought process. And at least there's that, right? I think we're more there with iPhone than we are with anything else. Like you can buy third-party screens and you can buy a bunch of third-party parts for the iPhones. But yeah,
do they work now, or is that since the legislation? Because
so a lot of them have been like, I mean, you can't buy Alibaba versions of them, but like you can buy screens and stuff. It was, let's see, I think it was the iPhone 13 where they kind of changed that, where you had to have the like, are you trying
the parts
to show your
pairing and stuff?
Do you want me to throw the screen up here?
Oh yeah, go ahead. This is in relation to the RAM, replacing your RAM. This is exactly why they don't do it. 8 gigs, 16 gigs. You have to pay more than double to get 16 gigs of RAM. That is just disgusting. 512 gigs of storage that comes on a smartphone. That's like base on a Galaxy.
Yeah, you get the 16 cores of GPU, so you're getting 6 more cores than the other one,
and 2 more CPU cores.
Yeah. So there's a little bit, but I mean, Apple is notorious. Like they invented the ladder purchasing like model, so it's like that kind of makes sense, right? Because like if you were to go in, like select that basic one, and so. If we start looking here, right, we're at 16. So now we're at the price of the next level up, right?
Right. Yep.
Right. So I might as well buy the next level up because it comes with 512 instead of 256.
Yep. Which, come on, really, 256? That for a Pro Presenter machine specifically, where you're doing a lot of video, that's not enough.
Right. And again, that depends on if you're doing a lot of video. For a church like you're at, like that totally, that would be super unacceptable, right? But yeah, it's just like this ladder pricing structure. Like, I mean, they're in it to make money. They have more cash on hand than the U.S. government does. Right?
It's insane. This is actually, I'm not mad about this one. $100 for an integrated 10 gig NIC.
Yeah,
that's not terrible.
How much was the 1 terabyte SSD? $200.
$400.
Okay, so I mean that's
that's disgusting.
That's gross.
Let's see.
At least it's not their trash fusion drives that they used to have.
Oh gosh,
those were horrendous.
A 1 terabyte 980 Pro, which is like, I'm sure you know, Samsung's not highest, but their most sold solid state is $107.
How much are do they still sell the Evos? I used to love the Evos. Those were awesome.
Yep. I think it's a 970 Evo, I believe is what it was called.
I used to have great success with those.
101.
Yeah.
So I switched to these. These are Crucial P3 Pluses.
Okay.
So it's 5 gigabytes of read and write speed on a PCI Express 4 slot.
Okay.
So these are faster. This is a 2 terabyte and 1 terabyte. These are faster than the storage that comes integrated into a Mac. So Apple's excuse that they had to do it for speed, it's not a real argument. Same argument with the PS5. That's what they said about the PS5, that it had to be integrated so that it would be fast enough to load the games. And then it just turned out that was just utter bull crap at the end. Which I have a PS5, so I'm not against all things like that, but
Yeah.
I try to be as consistent as I can with my views in like I daily drive a framework laptop. I don't know if you've seen those at all. They are 100% repairable, replaceable, and upgradable.
Did you see what was I don't think it ever actually came out. There was a guy that was trying to come out with a modular phone.
Yeah, the Fairphone.
Yeah.
That is out.
It actually did come out.
Yeah, I would be totally on board with that if it worked, but it doesn't work.
That sucks.
If you look at all the reviews, like you can't change the volume. The volume is either 100% or 0.
Ooh.
So it's like they didn't get the fundamentals of what a phone is.
Yeah, that sucks.
Would you be able to share this framework screen real quick? So this is a framework laptop. It's 100%. Every single part is replaceable with the screwdriver that comes in the box.
Nice.
The ports even. So you can go to the marketplace. They sell different keyboards. They sell right here. You can upgrade your main board. So the new Core Ultras from Intel just came out. So you can, for $699, drop a new main board in, keep your RAM. They sell them as complete laptops that you can just go buy and turn it on and use it, or you can do the do-it-yourself version, which is what I bought. Literally comes in pieces in the box, and then you add storage, Wi-Fi card, RAM yourself.
How much is one of their pre-builds?
They're actually kind of pricey as Windows computers go, which is why not a ton of people are doing it. But if you go to pre-built, Core Ultra,
I mean that's not horrible.
So for a 16 gigs of storage, or 512 gigs of storage, 16 gigs of RAM, and a Core i7 or Ultra 7 is what they call it now, is $1,529.
I think my Yoga was on sale for $700, but it was normally like $1,000 or $1,100 or something like that.
Yep.
So that's
it's a little
crazy.
higher. It's not crazy, but literally the bezel on the screen, you can just pull it off. It's magnets, and then there's 2 screws. Undo the 2 screws, and you can just pop the screen out.
So what's the longevity of something like that? I mean, that's not someone that's like your basic. I mean, dude, I've seen some people like they're not computer people, right? They own a computer and they pull their computer out of their backpack, and I'm like, did you use that as a plate for your pizza last night? And you're like, that, like, your computer is disgusting. Like, so like a computer like that, like that's not going to be a mass production. Like, people aren't going to just get that. I mean, that bezel would be gone, and someone's going to pull out their computer, and they're going to just have like screws exposed.
Well, they're very thoughtfully designed. So the screws under the bottom. So one, it's an all aluminum chassis.
Okay.
So the screen itself and the I forgot I'm not sharing anymore. I'm like pointing to stuff. So you choose what ports you want, even right here.
Okay.
So Type A, I did 2 Type A's, HDMI.
I do love that, because it's like, no matter how much I love USB-C, the fact of the matter is that USB-A is still a dominant thing that, like, I don't want to have to buy an adapter for everything.
Yeah. Yep. So these are 4 Thunderbolt ports basically inside the computer, and then they have these little dongles that you can choose what you want on them.
That's cool.
So they're all 4 of them are fully capable of anything they sell. So I have like a charging port on either side, which is super nice.
Look at that 1 terabyte price there.
Yeah. Yep. This is their. So it's only $25 more.
Right.
But this is a little expansion card that you can put into one of the slots.
So is it like an M2 slot or something?
No, it's Thunderbolt.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so this chassis is 100% aluminum. It feels, when you pick it up, it feels just like a normal laptop. You're never gonna like have the bezel come off in something unless you pull it. And
yeah,
then
that's pretty dope. So
these
those are
5
just
screws
like
at
little,
the bottom are
pop-out cards.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah, I really love these. I try to advocate for these.
Oh yeah, you see them right there in the picture. That's pretty dope.
Yep. I try to advocate my customers to get these. It's a little hard because of the pricing.
Yeah.
When you can get a yoga for 2 yogas for the same price when they're on sale, it's a little hard. But they do. They've kept their word. They've upgraded it. We're on 4th generation now of motherboards available. I wish Apple would do that. Can you imagine a Mac Mini that you could upgrade to an M4 just by replacing the board? Like, it would be a game changer, and I would be in support of that.
Yeah, and I'm curious, like, the money is the thing, right? And it's like, I'd be really curious, like, how much money the Framework is making, because like there are some people, like, it's so funny, like, you remember that scene in I think it's The Dark Knight when Michael Caine's character is talking about like when he was in the military, and it's like they were just throwing rubies, right? They just stole all this stuff and they're just throwing rubies, and like no one knew why. And he's like, some guys just like to watch the world burn.
Yeah.
Right. It's like there are some guys out there, they're like, listen, I'm really not doing this for the money. Like, I want to make some money, like, of course, right? But like that's not why I'm doing this. Right. You have a company like Apple, and the history of Apple is cool because like you obviously have Steve that obviously wanted the money, right? Like there's no arguing there. But like the product was important beyond all else, right?
Yep.
And his philosophy was like the product will make the money, right? But the product has to be like as close to perfect as we can possibly make it.
Yep. Which is still their philosophy now. Right. I would say the close to perfect is what they shoot for.
Yeah, that flawless interaction. Yeah, man, I don't know. I'd be really curious to know, like, there's got to be a reason why they don't do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's an incredibly difficult business model. Like, I will say that. But they did just post that in June, they posted that May was their biggest sales month ever.
Framework. Okay.
Yep. So they've been expanding there. Like I said, they're on Gen 4 now. They're doing really well. I hope to see them succeed. And I want more like that in the industry. I can't imagine that they'll be big enough ever to influence like Dell or Apple or anything like that. But that's my dream. I would love for them to be able to.
I mean, you never know, man. We've seen small little companies grow. I mean, this little company right here, this is starting to influence quite a few people, I feel like.
Yeah. They went from home devices that people would make fun of to being the world leader in Wi-Fi.
Yeah. And I mean, now we're getting enterprise everything from them, which is really fun.
Thank God.
It's been really fun to watch them and watch them grow. But yeah, I mean, don't count anyone out, man. I mean, if people want it, the market will shift. And that's honestly, that's kind of the beauty of capitalism, right? Is that like we are in a market style that a little guy can dictate what the big guys are doing.
Yeah, money talks.
Right. I mean, Tesla.
Yeah. Man. Have me on next week. We'll talk about Tesla.
Yeah, perfect example, right? No matter how you feel about electric vehicles or Elon or whatever, right?
They changed everything.
They changed everything, right?
Yep.
Like, so that's a great example of, don't count the little guys out.
Yep.
But I mean, yeah. So I think let's wrap up. We've been talking about this for like an hour. I think, dude, you make a lot of really good points. I agree. I think if I wanted to wrap this up with a piece of advice from people, is hire Anthony. Buy a computer from Anthony. No, but for real, I think you're right. I think that it is in 2024. It is not hard to spend very little time doing some research and finding someone to build a machine for you. I think that the podcast that me and Jordan did was more geared at if you're just going to walk into a store and buy something.
Yeah.
I still hold that same stance. I still think that Mac is superior in that format.
Okay.
I think if you're going to take the time and do the research and have something built for you custom wise, I don't disagree with you. I think that Windows is a better option because there's more affordability, more flexible in that scenario. And you do some research and reach out to people. Like you said, there are people locally pretty much everywhere in this country that will do this. And I think the only other caveat to that is look at reviews. Don't just use someone because, Steve told you to use them, right? There's a lot of guys out there that build really crappy computers, right?
Yes, there are.
It is really readily available parts, right? You can get on Crucial's website and buy almost every part you need to build a computer, right?
Yep.
And just because they built a gaming computer, we have no idea how good that gaming computer is. We have no idea what the layout of it is, and you might run into problems, right?
100%.
So do some research, right?
Get good advice.
Get good advice. And that's where YouTube's here. If people are wanting to buy a computer from you, how can they reach out to you? How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, go to thegoattech.com. So the GOAT tech.com. And there's a bunch of options on there to contact me. That'll get you there. Or you can tweet me at thegoattech.
And you'll build them a computer, put it in a box, and ship it to them?
I don't do shipping. I do local only. So I do hand delivery. So I want to be the one that can come out to you and see what your needs are, not sell you something you don't need, and then build something that is exactly what you need, not any more or less. So I feel right now I can only do that in person.
Okay. Well, if you're in the greater West Michigan area, right?
Yep.
How far do you travel? How far do you drive?
So far I've been to Chicago and then probably Traverse City.
Yeah.
Are the farthest.
So if you're willing to go to Chicago, that means you're willing to go to Detroit. What about Pittsburgh? It's about 5 hours. You willing to drive 5 hours?
Probably not. Unless we got a really full Pro Presenter setup.
What about Fort Wayne? It's 2.5 hours, the same distance.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
There you go.
Yep, anything like that. So 3 hours or less, I would say.
Yeah, 3 hours from Grand Rapids, Michigan. He's willing to drive. So if you guys are within 3 hours of Grand Rapids, Michigan, throw it in your Google Maps. See if you can get to Grand Rapids in 3 hours.
Yeah.
Anthony will drive to you and get your Pro Presenter machine set up and running.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Good conversation. This is awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you're listening to the audio version, give us a 5-star review because we only accept those. And thanks again for, comment down below. Let us know if this was helpful. Are you running a custom PC that hasn't given you any problems and you are 100% on Anthony's side? Or are you the type that say, screw it, I'm just going to buy a Mac anyways? So let us know in the comments. Thanks so much.